Hello friends, in this video we are going to discuss what is relationship in an ER model, that is in ER schema. Now in previous last video we discussed what is entity type, what is entity set, what is mean by attribute and what is attribute type. Now after entity and attribute, here we are going to represent entity set into relationship. Now here in this video we are going to discuss what kind of relationship is there, how we are going to represent each entity or each entity set into the relation or into the ER schema, and we'll also going to discuss what are the basic relation types, how it represent, what is the degree, what is the coordination ratio, etc. So let's start. Now what is entity type? Now here this is the entity student. Now student is an entity having the entity set like E1, E2, E3. Now here entity type is nothing but these are some basic blocks, some basic building blocks to describe the structure of data. Now what kind of structure of data? We are going to describe the structure of ER or entity relationship. So we require some entity types, that is it's some basic building blocks of entities. Now it's a category of particular entity in entity set. Now here in this diagram you can see E1, E2, E3. These are the instance or these are the objects of type entity, and it is a set of entities and that becomes the entity set. Now let's understand this with one example. Now consider this example. Now this is the ER schema or ER diagram. Now here we can see this is the student. Now this is the entity, and one more entity is nothing but the teacher. Now student and teacher, these are the two entities, and these ovals are nothing but the values of that entities or characteristics of entity, and these ovals are nothing but the attributes of entity. Now the student and teacher is having the relationship in between these two entities set. Now this can be represented by the diagram. Now this is the objects of teacher, that is T1, T2, T3, T4. These are the four objects of teacher, and this is the object of student entity, that is S1, S2, S3, S4 and S5. Now the teacher T1 teaches to S1. Teacher T2 is teaches to S2, T3 teaches to S1 and T4 is teaches to S2. So these are nothing but a relationship, or these are the some individual ages called as relationship of each entity. That is from teacher to students it gives some relationship, and this all the data we are going to represent. This all data will going to represent into the structure form, and that is nothing but the ER structure or entity relationship schema. Now relationship set types have a set of similar type of relation, and it is represented by a diamond. So it how it represent the relationship, it represent by the diagram, that is teacher teaches to the student. Now here are the four entities and the five entity set of the two entities, that is student and teacher. Now let's consider one more diagram, that is small ER diagram, that is student and course. Now student is one of the entity and course is the one of the entity. Now this entity set only have the two entities, so we can refer it as a binary. Now let's understand the formal definition of relationship. So ER relationship type represent the association between two different entities. Now student and course having some association in between these two entities called as a relationship. Now enroll becomes a relationship type that exists between the student and course. So student can enroll a course, so enroll becomes the relationship. And how we are going to represent In ER diagram, the relationship represented by diamond shape. So it represented by the diamond shape, and student enroll course and it connecting with the lines. So this is the relation schema. Now, what is the use of to represent diagrammatically? We can read it as a pictorial form. That's why there is a schema called as an entity relationship. Now consider one more ER, that is now here teacher, course and student. These three entities relate to each other with the relationship R. Now by using a tabular form, or we can also use some foreign key concept. So this become the entity set teacher, course and students. Now here we represent the three entities called as a ternary entities or ternary relationship. Now entity set is what? It is a group of entity which is similar kind. So it contains the attribute that similar values only and group of entities of the similar type. Examples are car entity, animal entity or bank account entity. Now if we have the third table into entity set or number of entity, we can include into one single into the tabular form by using foreign key or reference key. Now in upcoming video we are going to discuss what is foreign key and reference key. So entity type is nothing but basic building blocks of describing the structure of data. Now what is the use of describing? To represent it into the pictorial form called as a ER, and it is a category of entity in entity set. Now entity is an object of type and set of all entity called as an entity set. Now there are three components in entity relationship, three components, that is name, degree and cardinality. Now what is name? Name is nothing but it given the unique entity name or unique attributes name, or each entity having the unique particular name like teacher, course and student. What is mean by degree? Degree is nothing but the number of entity set which is participated into the ER schema. Now here it in this diagram it participated three entity set. So degree of this ER becomes the 3. So total number of entities participated into the ER schema becomes degree. Now what is cardinality? Cardinality is nothing but if we have the relationship ages from one entity to another entity, then total number of participation is nothing but becomes a cardinality. That is, it can be partial or partial. We are going to calculate how much one entity set it contributed to the another relationship. It becomes a cardinality. So this is all about the basics of relation types, entity types, and how it representation, what is ternary and binary. In next video, we are going to discuss in details what is mean by degree and what is mean by cardinality. Thank you.